Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Algorithm Research Perspectives. Today, we are speaking to someone who's brave, fearless, and has a deep sense of care for his community. He's a 30-year veteran of Canadian forces, during which he was deployed in Iraq in 2006 as the strategic force planner. His leadership skills have been sought after, and he has supported initiatives such as the Vancouver Winter Olympics. But most recently, he's involved in economic diversification and trade promotion in Alberta, Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Malcolm Bruce, CEO of Edmonton Global. Thanks, Malcolm. Great to have you on the show.
Well, thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here today.
So Malcolm, what's your backstory and what made you choose a career in the military?
That's an interesting one because I'm a first-generation Canadian. My parents are British. They came across after the Second World War. I grew up in a very happy family. There was 5 kids, and my father allowed us to do the things that we wanted to do, to figure out what we wanted to be when we grew up. So when I was a younger man, I said, there's 2 professions that really tend to gravitate my interest. One was being a soldier and the other one was being a farmer. But I found out early in life I had an allergy to grain dust. So I turned around and joined the Canadian Army at 19 in the infantry. And it ended up being just a tremendous opportunity in so many ways, both professionally and personally over the 30 years that I was part of the Army.
Wow, so that was an easy decision, huh?
It really was. It's, the easy part was the decision. As you know, sometimes the harder part is getting through all the gates that they have, like basic training and things. So there was a few times in the first year of training that I thought, oh boy, this is going to be a little bit tougher than I originally planned for, but it was well worth it.
As a soldier, Malcolm's experiences have enabled him to overcome various challenges.
In those 30 years, you must have been in pretty intense situations a number of times. So how do you deal with fear?
First of all, most civilians or most people don't understand what the military is, but the military is a conservative organization, and I use that in a small c. It is an organization that respects tradition, honor, and those kind of things. But it's also one of the most progressive institutions in our country because it's a learning organization. So we believe that leadership is a taught skill, and we believe that with the right training and the right tools, that you should be able to overcome most of the challenges that you are going to experience when you get into harm's way. But one of them is to train you so that you are confident in your own skills, you're confident in your teammates, and you're confident in the organization, so that when you are in a position where fear creeps in, that you can overcome that fear to be able to create the outcomes that you're meant to do. So I am a big proponent of making sure that you're prepared, making sure that you're confident, and making sure that you trust those folks that you're with, and you will be surprised what individuals can do in that kind of environment. It's quite amazing.
Having spent over 3 decades in the Canadian military, Malcolm believes that the organization teaches invaluable life skills.
If you were to suggest making changes to the school curriculum, what are the few things that you learned as a soldier that you think or you believe should be a part of the school curriculum and kids should be taught from a very young age?
To do critical thinking and initiative. I think one of the things that the military always does is it creates an opportunity to figure out how to work in chaos. We recognize that not everything will be structured, that in an environment in the military, particularly in a combat zone, things are not going according to plan. And so what they do is they teach you to think critically and also to think how you are going to be able to try and achieve those objectives even in this chaotic environment. So critical thinking and initiative are 2 skill sets that I think everybody should have. But more fundamentally, and this is a point I think that's most important, is one of the key lessons I've learned in life is education is the key to unlock every single kind of opportunity there is. I have been probably to 20 different countries in the world where, there are challenges in terms of conflicts and other things that are arising. One of the greatest problems in those immediate areas is the lack of education for the young people, because education gives them hope, and then hope brings better prosperity. And I can't emphasize that enough. So any form of education that will drive to things like critical thinking, initiative, those are the kind of programs that I think we need to make sure that are in our schools.
Malcolm's expertise throughout the years even led him to be involved in the Vancouver Winter Olympics.
So tell us more about your involvement with the Vancouver Winter Olympics and share anecdotes if possible, something funny, some behind the scenes drama that happened.
Yeah, as you know, Winter Olympics are very big. Olympic period are very big activities. I mean, I look at Dubai Expo that's coming up. These are big events that take lots of planning, years of preparation. It was no different for the Olympics. So what happened was there was going to be a security component for the Winter Games. Those security components entailed two parts. One was a police presence, and the police presence were responsible for the actual physical site. So think about the athletes' village, think about the aerials for the ski events, think about the oval racing tracks and things like that. So the police were responsible for the site. The military, the Army, the Navy and the Air Force all had a part to play, but the Army's part was then we would provide an inner and an outer ring. It was layered, so any threat would have to get through multiple layers before they could get to either the athletes or to the venue. But also, as you can appreciate, in Canada, we have a very large, noteworthy First Nations population, Indigenous population. So one of the jobs I had starting in 2009, so a year before the Olympics kicked off, was to go out and meet with all our First Nations that would be involved in the areas that we're at to make sure that they understood what we were doing, so there would be no misunderstanding of soldiers and First Nations in the same region. So that was one of the things that I was responsible for, and I can proudly say we had no issues. And one of the things that came out of that engagement with our First Nations, the Squamish Council in particular, was they said, why don't you guys put on a little show that shows our people what security apparatus and tools are going to be in place. So I thought, boy, that's a really good idea. So we brought out the Coast Guard, we brought out the police, we brought out the military and emergency services, everything. And we ran this little show, like a little expose of different capabilities. We had over 35,000 people show up to it. So it was a really useful event to show that. The other sort of more anecdotal one is we rented a bunch of skidoos. So those snowmobiles that go over snow, and in the mountains in British Columbia, there is a lot of snow. And I was thinking that I know how to skidoo. And so I got on one and I was running from outpost to outpost, and then I came off the track. I'm pretty stuck. So I got off my skidoo and I sunk up to my chest, and I'm 6'6". So
Gosh.
I said, I've got a real problem here because I'm never going to get out of this without some help. And sure enough, one of our military patrols swung by and they said, looks like we're going to have to give you a hand. Here, put that rope on. We'll tow you out. So yeah, it was a good laugh at my expense, but it was a great event. We were out there for over 2 months, working both with the games, but also other security apparatuses. And it just goes to show that, good planning, good preparation makes for a smooth execution.
So when you were in that snow, what was your reaction?
Oh, I was laughing because I felt so foolish. I should have known. Because my skidoo was pretty bogged down. I knew eventually somebody would come by and find me. As they say, I was second in command for the Army component. You're not allowed to wander too far without somebody always trying to find out where you are, right? So they want to make sure that they've got eyes on you all the time.
More recently, Malcolm's current role as the CEO of Edmonton Global envisions ambitious plans, and according to him, it's only the start of something special for the region.
So what's the most exciting part about leading Edmonton Global? Where do you see the company 5 years from now?
So the goal of Edmonton Global is to radically transform the regional economy. So if you think about Dubai, if you think about Singapore, you think about London, automatically you as an individual have an image of what that city is, right? Because you picture it as something. London, it could be the financial district. Dubai, it could be, the incredible towers that are there and, the opportunities that are represented in Dubai. Edmonton doesn't have yet that story. And so my intent is to make sure that we take where we have some strengths. We're ranked number 3 globally for artificial intelligence, food and agriculture. We are in one of the most fertile regions in our country, being Canada going to be a net exporter here in the next 15 to 20 years. One of the few that's still going to be exporting food to the rest of the world. There are exciting opportunities in place here. So my intent is to transform the region. Edmonton Global is the vehicle to do that. So that's where I think in the next 5 years, I'm hoping that journey has well entrenched and we're on our way.
Amazing. So do you see Edmonton as the next artificial intelligence capital, or say like a Silicon Valley of Canada, something on those lines?
Yeah, I do. Silicon Valley has its own unique perspective, right? But what we're saying is we have strengths in traditional industries here. There's really 4: food and ag, manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, health and life science, and energy, including clean tech. And what we want to do is apply this new technology. So if you think about technology as a horizontal, those other 4 verticals, then you apply that technology into those traditional industries to enhance the efficiency and output of those industries. I'll give you a health and life science example. There's a doctor here called Dr. Shapiro at the University of Alberta. And the University of Alberta is ranked in the top 100 globally. That's where the artificial intelligence is. But in the health and life science, they've cracked the code on type 1 diabetes in mice. And they're moving into clinical trials. And they're confident in the next 5 to 10 years, they will have at least a type 1 diabetes cure here at the University of Alberta. And so, when we talk about diabetes, there's 450 million people globally infected with diabetes. There's 350 million people that are, on the border of diabetes. So this is a global health issue, and we believe that we'll have it here. And as you know, this year is the 100th anniversary of insulin, which was invented in Canada. And so we're very proud to be able to be looking at the whole cure for diabetes coming from the Edmonton metropolitan region. It's very exciting stuff, actually. My goal is to produce the cure here. That's the kind of thinking that I want to do. So my job is to create more opportunity for foreign direct investment and to take those high potential, high value companies into the export market. That's really what I do.
Being a senior leader for so long, Malcolm understands what it takes to motivate a team and unleash their potential.
So what is your favorite life lesson quote, and how do you think it is relevant to your life?
Some people might be offended by this. There's a couple of people I always quote. One of them is Napoleon. Napoleon said, "It's amazing what a person will do for a piece of tin." And what that means is that for just a little bit of recognition, somebody will work very hard on outcomes. And it's those recognitions of permeates throughout the organization. What Napoleon used to do is he used to ride up to his corps commanders and say, "Show me who your bravest soldier is." And the corps commander would say, "It's Baston." So Baston would come out of the ranks, a young private soldier. And then Napoleon would say, "I'm going to make you a baron and give you 1,000 acres in Brittany." Well, of course, that would ripple through the entire army to make them fight harder and more bravely. And it's not the military context, it's the context that leaders have an obligation to make sure that they recognize their folks. And it could be as simple as saying good morning to them. It's as simple as recognizing a good piece of work that they do. And I think that people, and particularly leaders, need to spend more time just recognizing their own folks for the great efforts that they do to deliver outcomes for any organization.